This episode of The Answer is Yes Baja Sessions is brought to you by Baja Bound Insurance Services. Driving to Mexico? You can buy and print out your Mexican auto insurance policy online in minutes with their easy-to-use website. They also have great travel information to help you plan your trip south of the border. Visit bajabound.com, the easiest way to get Mexican auto insurance.
Hello and welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast. This is the Baja Sessions recording. We produce this for Mondays. Today's actually Tuesday. We're running a little late on this, but it was worth the wait because I've got Ryan Arciero on the line. Ryan, how are you today, buddy? Good to hear from you.
I'm doing great, Jim, as always. It is Tuesday morning, but it's glorious outside here in California.
Yeah, because you're in Orange County.
I'm in the OC, not born in LA, but raised in the OC. So I've been behind the orange curtain for quite some time.
I didn't know you were born in LA. Where were you born at?
I was born right near downtown LA because my family, we lived in La Puente at the time, and wasn't a whole lot around there. I mean, I'm aging myself, but I'm old, but not that old. And then from there moved to Fountain Valley on the outskirts of the OC, and then from there to Irvine.
Okay, I get it. Well, we'll give you Orange County credit. Now, for those that don't know about you, Ryan, your family, and I love talking about this real fast, your family has a background in the wine business, and as you know, I'm in the Baja United wine business. So, when did that start or go away, or what was the quick background on the wine business for you guys?
You know, it is cool. I'm so happy for you and your endeavors down in Baja with the wine industry. It's such a cool industry, and it's cool to see where it's gone now down there. But my grandfather came here from Italy, and he came over here when he was 13 years old. So they made their own wine in Italy. He had a couple vines, and the families would get together and produce and ferment their own wine. And so he always had a desire, and he was a farmer too by trade, farmer and in construction. And he always had goals of one day building and opening a winery. And he built ended up buying a lot of property in the Mojave Desert and did a lot of farming out there with alfalfa. And had heard about some of the areas in the Central California region that were growing, Paso Robles being one of them. So he went up there quite a bit and looked in the Paso Robles area and just started. He's like, I'm going to make this happen. We're going to build a winery. I'm going to start putting in the vineyards and growing grapes, and we're going to produce wine. And my grandpa, once he got his mind wrapped around the fact that he wanted to do something, he did it. He didn't care what it would take to do it. Work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, if that's what it took. But that's what he wanted to do. Got the whole family involved in doing it. And opened up one of the biggest wineries in Paso Robles in 1986. He started with producing wine. He leased out some vineyards in the Shandon area, which is just 15 minutes east of Paso Robles. Leased out some land and some vineyards over there until his vineyards were already up and running and ready to produce. And started producing. Started producing in 1986. Opened up the winery in 86. And just grew it from there. And Paso Robles was still, somewhat small at that point, but it was a growing region for wine. And it's as you well know too, it's a very, very difficult business to be in. I mean, you go to the grocery stores and liquor stores, you look at the shelf and boom, all of a sudden you're faced with, hundreds of different labels of wine, different varieties. It's like, what do I do? What do I get? What do I buy? And so it's a very tough industry, especially when you're going against guys like, Gallo and Mondavi and who own lion's shares of the market.
Yeah.
And it came to head about, maybe about 8 years ago. A guy came and said, I'm really interested in wanting to buy your winery. I don't want the vineyards. I just want the winery. And it was a time for my family where we either had to start stepping up and getting bigger, or we had to digress and go smaller. Well, the infrastructure was already in place, so it was very difficult to digress and go backwards with especially the infrastructure you had, and the capital to go forward just wasn't there. And so it was a good time in my grandpa's. He had accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish in it, and he says, "You know what?" He goes, "We're out. Let's sell it." And So they decided to just sell it. They sold it, but still became farmers and still farmed the grapes up until about 3 or 4 years ago when we sold pretty much all the vineyards themselves, which is another very, very tough business to be in, especially when you're basing it on weather patterns and what happens with the weather. Some years you have good crop, some years you have bad. We still have a small vineyard in the Shandon area where we grow grapes and sell them off to different wineries in the region, and my dad pretty much handles that.
Yeah, wow.
So that's the story,
wow.
Short of it.
As long as I've known you, I don't know if I've heard some of those details. I knew the overlying story, but very interesting. You come from an entrepreneurial family. You guys have been involved in a number of things, and I definitely want to talk about Baja today because that's what we do on this show. But I'm curious, what are you doing right now in terms of your own business life, and what projects are you working on right now?
I've been very fortunate with my family. Whether it have been construction, property management, the wine business, racing. I've had a chance to experience all of it, but I've always had the desire to want to do stuff on my own too. And with my background in racing and my my passion for the sport, I've always found myself wanting to do something in motorsports, and I've been very fortunate to have been able to race for a living and race for top factories like General Motors and like Volkswagen, and those have led to other opportunities down the road. And I tell my wife this is you never know what comes out of an opportunity when you meet people.
Yeah.
Nothing may happen, but if you don't put yourself in a position to go talk to them or be in a position to enjoy, have fun with them, go out to dinner or do whatever, then you're never going to be positioned to see if there's any opportunity for you down the road. And an opportunity has always presented itself within the off-road side of things that have led to other business ventures down the road. And one of them was with Volkswagen. Very fortunate enough to race for them professionally, and that has led to other business ventures I've been able to do to them outside of the racing world. So I do some consulting for them now, along with my partner Dennis, and we've had a great long-term relationship with them since 2004 or 5, I believe. And so we're trying to grow that and trying to do more and more stuff with them outside of the racing world. So that takes up quite a bit of my time. I had another really, really successful business with a good friend of mine, Gary Williams, and we ended up getting a UPS store, getting a franchise, and that's his business, and I relied on him for his knowledge and his wealth of knowledge in that business, and we opened up a store in Rancho Santa Margarita, and kind of went down that road. I never thought I'd do that in a million years. Never. We since sold the store about a couple of years ago, and that was something that was really good. And then there's some other opportunities I'm working on with other car manufacturers for the future as well. That's non-racing related. So I kind of keep my toes dipped in everything, and then also doing a little bit of stuff with the family too.
Yeah. It sounds like I should tap into you for some more wine knowledge, man. You really got some good history back there.
You need to come over here and sit down and pick my dad's brain. That's what you need to really need to do. He's the brains behind it now, and that's the sweat equity that man's put into it, and he knows it inside and out.
Yeah,
and has the connections.
You're so blessed with the great family and all the people around you. I'm glad that you brought them up and had a chance to share a little bit of their lives and your grandfather's lives. Ryan, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is obviously we've got a background in racing off-road together and spending a lot of time in Baja racing both the Score Series as well as the Nora Series. But you're one of those guys that you go back to Baja with your family, with your friends. You just don't go down to their race. You're all in with Baja stuff. And I'm just curious, when did you start going down to Baja and what attracted you to it in the first place?
It revolved around racing, going down there first time with my dad, and I just grew an instant love for it. A love for the people. The people were so, arms open, so willing to just go out of their way for you, and so accommodating. And with the racing, they, that's their passion between that and like soccer. But we're racing in their backyard, so they just see the excitement these people have on their faces when we're down there. And it's something I saw instantly when I first went down there. It's been about probably 30 years ago since my first trip down there. And I just noticed, like, the further south you would go, the more majestic this place would get. And you start making your way down that peninsula, and there's times that you're sitting there and you think you're the only person in the world. You're just sitting there either on a mountaintop looking over the Sea of Cortez or looking over the Pacific Ocean. What's neat about that peninsula is you get a chance to see both sides of that peninsula, the Pacific side and the East Coast, the Sea of Cortez side. It's just majestic. It really is. I go down there quite a bit for the racing side of things, but because of that love, and the fact that it's nice that my wife had gone down there when she was growing up too, and I got to experience Baja more so, not on the tourist side, but her family would go down there and go fishing and had a place down, near Cabo San Lucas. So so she had this love for it, and I just knew, like, I want my kids to see that. I want my kids to see, what Mexico's like, what Baja's like, what the people are like, just in how incredible the people are. Yeah. And it's just it's something like I take vacations down there. I was just down there with my family, and I brought my brother and his family down in July, and it's a place that I always want to have a connection to one way or another, and I will always go down there, and I feel very comfortable bringing them down there too. I mean, there's no issues that I feel that hinder that.
Yeah, Ryan, when you say family for our listeners, can you, and I know it's a big one, can you describe, family members I know you take your kids and your wife, but the extent of the family members that go down there, and really what goes through your mind when you're setting up that trip? You've got a couple little ones. You guys are flying from Orange County to Cabo. I mean, what does that look like for you? Because I really want people to understand, bring your families down to Baja. Others are doing it and having a great time.
No, for sure. I mean, you go, Jim. You go to the airport. You go to Orange County Airport, which is, for me, it's nice because Orange County opened up a direct flight from Orange County to straight to Cabo San Lucas. Yeah. And you come back and you clear customs in Orange County. It's just it's easy. It's simple. I'm very fortunate. I have twin 2-year-olds, and they've made 4 trips down already, down there, from Orange County to Cabo. Most of them, a couple of them are vacation, but most of them are my wife and my stepmom taking them by themselves, and meeting me down in Cabo because I'm doing the Nora Mexican 1000 and end up finishing in Cabo, and they meet me there. Yeah. And I don't worry about them. Everything is, you can find issues with anywhere you go. And to me, you got to have common sense and you got to be smart. Like, I sure as heck wouldn't go down the middle of the bad parts of LA and walk the streets at night. I wouldn't do that. I'm putting myself in a position I shouldn't be in. Yeah. Nor would I do that in Mexico. Knock on wood. It's every trip that I've been down there. You're smart about what you do, and you position yourself with great people and in great institutions like Cabo Azul or Flora Farms, or even if you go further north, everywhere down that peninsula. Like I said, the further south you go out of Tijuana, the more majestic and the more incredible the people are, because the populations get smaller and smaller until you get to La Paz and Cabo, and they always have open arms for Americans. They really do. And like I said, you're never susceptible to having issues, no matter where you're at in the world, let alone Baja.
I love that you take your 2-year-olds down there. My 4-year-old's been down, I think, 4 times now. My 2-year-old has not been down. We just got our passport in the mail a couple weeks ago, and she's been begging to go. They have their little Mexican dresses, and they're trying to learn Spanish words and stuff like that. But people are just hesitant, and I love to hear that you've taken your kids down there so often. And I know your extended family, they bring their kids, and you guys really have a great reception when everybody's down there.
No, for sure, Jim. And the one thing that I forgot to mention a bit ago is we talked about the airport. When we arrive in Cabo, when you fly down, you're from Cabo, you see kids everywhere. Families that are bringing their kids down there, not worried about what's going on. The resorts are down there are first class and second to none. I mean, they're pushing themselves to rival against Hawaii. Is what these resorts have: the food, the amenities, the activities for kids. I know quite a bit. We stay at Cabo Azul. But Cabo Azul, they have a whole kids pool that's completely separate. They have kids activities every single day if you choose to partake in that. Now our kids are 2, so we haven't gotten into that yet. But it's so kid friendly no matter where you go. And I would think